Good afternoon, everyone. It is 2 o'clock Eastern Time, so let's start our webinar. Welcome to GDI Consulting's webinar on the Training Support Services, as I call it, TSS, for the U.S. Army Central USARCENT. My name is Larry Weiss, and I'm the Senior Business Development Manager at GDI Consulting. I'm also joined with Ab Van, who heads our Capture and Proposal Development Department, and he'll be doing kind of the meat of the proposal. Ab will be going into the details of the USARCENT TSS bid. Just some administrative notes. This is the first time you're attending one of our webinars. To the right of your screen, under the blue File tab, there is a blue Download File button, which you can download the presentation slides. Chat is at the bottom right side panel, which you can use to send your questions. If you click on the red button with the 3 dots kind of between the presentation and the right side, it enlarges your screen and hides the side panel. And when you do want to chat or download the presentation, you can click on the red button with the 3 dots to the right and expand the side panel again. If you do get disconnected, there's a reconnect button at the top of the screen for situations like that, and you get back on again. Okay, let me tell you a little bit about GDI Consulting. We've had 10 years of solid performance. You can read these slides, but the thing is we've had a lot of good growth. We have an 81% win rate of the proposals that we get involved with. And you're going to say, how's that possible? And the answer is because we're very selective. If we don't think you have a chance of winning, or if we think somebody else has an absolute clear path, we can tell you. We do have a lot of experience in doing this, and we're very proud to say 2010 wins in 2018, which is $5.2 billion or whatever, and 2019 looks even better. I have about 30 years of experience working in the federal environment for big companies, small companies, medium companies, companies like Accenture, Oracle, some smaller companies. And I can tell you one thing is for sure. You need to have, the government is a very, very big market. It's very lucrative, but you have to do things their way. And their way means submitting a good proposal, meeting the criteria and the requirements that they're stating, not just meeting them, but exceeding them, and having a proposal that looks professionally written and done properly. And we deal not only with smaller or medium-sized companies, sometimes big companies come to us for expertise, just for another set of eyes to look at a proposal, because sometimes they could be inbred. But the point is you have to do a good proposal. And if you're a small company, you have to appear like you're a bigger company and can meet it. So, and by the way, in terms of successes that we have, you can see that we've done a lot of DoD work, and including the Army, and so we're kind of familiar with the kind of things they look for, the criteria. And I think as Ab goes through the presentation, you'll see that we're pretty knowledgeable on this procurement, the evaluation criteria, and what it takes to win. The outline of the seminars, again, we're going to go through, Ab's going to go through the focus of the procurement. We think what the highlights are, what the scope, how you have to do your proposal, the structure of it. Very important. The evaluation criteria, maybe even more important, how they're allowing for partnering, what we think a win strategy would be, and then either in the chat line or separately give us Q&A. So without further ado, let me turn it over to Ab.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. This is Ab Van. I head our capture department. And before going into the details of this, actually, just a few minutes ago, I heard the good news that one of our clients won a $500 million DLA for CENTCOM, which is actually the same area that we're going to discuss today's RFP for. So, as Larry mentioned, we have a very good track record of winning projects, and specifically for this area, the CENTCOM and the Central Command area. So with that said, let's delve into the actual RFP. The focus of the current TSS project, as we've written here, this is a single award contract to provide efficient, effective, and quality knowledge-based training support services to the USARCENT, to the units assigned, aligned, and supported in USARCENT. So this is essentially the main focus of this bid and what we should go for. Now, some highlights of this solicitation. Solicitation number is listed. It's obviously from USARCENT, Training Support Services. That's the name, title of the RFP. Some of the important dates. There was an industry date held on 11th July 2019. I hope everybody made it, but that's an important one. However, the slides are also, for those of you who weren't present there, the slides are there on the FPO website, so you can download it. They have updated the PWS on August 16th. So that's the most updated PWS, and they've added some scope to the RFP, which I will go over, which was not mentioned in the industry they held for us. So there's a little bit of a scope change. The full RFP was scheduled to be released in September or October. Obviously, they missed September. But if they want to be on track, they need to actually release it this month. Worst case would be November, but there is a possibility that they're going to release it towards the end of this month. There's going to be a site visit in September, which apparently they have to do it later on. They haven't announced it yet, the date for it. And then proposals were scheduled to be due in November or December. If they are going to issue it in October, we might be able to see a due date in December, but we'll have to see how it goes. And the anticipated award date is third quarter of fiscal 20. And do remember that fiscal 20, we are already in it. So third quarter is somewhere around April and those are times. Okay. Set aside, this is not a set aside bid. It's a full and open competition. However, you need to have at least 15% small business participation. From 15% is calculated from the total contract value. So that's something to consider. But this is a full and open competition. NAICS code is 541690. It's a single award. Award ceiling they haven't announced yet. It's a 3-year project, 1 base and 2 option years. And the date they have set is 1st of July 2020. So they want to be able to award the contracts so that the start date is 1st of July 2020. That's why they can't linger too much on the issuance of the RFP. Place of performance is obviously 100% openness and in the USARCENT AOR. Okay, now let's look at the scope of this project. Obviously, program management as far as the actual program is concerned. And then USARCENT's Training Readiness Center. This is in Kuwait. And the main, the meat of the job, which is to do live and virtual training through the Training Readiness Center. Now, there is also a management, operation and management of Odairi Range Complex, URC, in Kuwait that has been added. There was talk of it, but in the latest change to the solicitation, the statement of work, they have actually added the operation and maintenance of that too. This is a 500 kilometer square live fire area in Kuwait. So the operation and maintenance of that has been added. And then the Training Support Center, TSCs, that's in Camp Arif Jan and Buring, and also in Qatar. Also, the TATS maintenance and sustainment, which is in Jordan and UAE. That's the training aids, devices, simulators, and simulations. So all the devices, the support, technical support that is needed to maintain the training devices, that's part of this contract as well. And the statement of work goes into detail on that, so you can look at that, especially the latest. Okay, so let's look at the proposal structure, how it's going to be. Obviously, as you know, even the draft RFP isn't out, the full RFP isn't out, so many of these might change, but this is from whatever they have said in that industry day, as well as all the documentation that they have issued on the FBO website. So there's going to be 5 volumes to the proposal. Volume 1 is technical experience, or factor 1. Volume 2 is small business participation, that's considered factor 2. Volume 3 is the technical volume, or factor 3, and has 2 sub-factors, program management, and this is what's added to it, the Odureri range complex execution plan. So this is new, this sub-factor 2. Then you have volume 4, cost price, which is considered factor 4, and volume 5, administrative and contract information. So this is the volume structure for the proposal. Of course, it might change when the RFP comes out, and they might add or delete some parts from this. Let's look at the evaluation criteria as well before we delve into those volumes by themselves. They're going to do this in 2 phases. In phase 1, they're going to look at the non-price factors only. So they're not going to ask you to submit price in phase 1. So in phase 1, no pricing. They're going to look at the 3 factors, the technical experience, the small business participation, and the technical proposal. The first 2 so far they've said is, in other words, the technical experience and the small business participation are acceptable on acceptable basis. So pass-fail sort of review. So they're going to score essentially on factor 3, which is the technical volume, based on sub-factor 1, which is the program management, and sub-factor 2, which is the execution plan for the URC. So, and they're going to, they've said that how they're going to evaluate factors 3, they have not established yet. So they're going to say that in the upcoming RFP release. Now, once companies are reviewed, they pass factor 1 and factor 2, and based on their factor 3 offer and proposal, they are shortlisted. Then the government is going to send them a note asking them to provide their pricing. And they're supposed to provide that volume 4, which is factor 4 price, within 14 days after the government notifies them. So they need to have worked on it before and have it prepared. So this is essentially a 2-phase project, non-price factors first, and then for the shortlisted companies, they just get pricing from them and then select one of them essentially based on pricing, because essentially they're equal. So in phase 2, they're going to just look at the pricing and see who's going to give them the lowest price. This is at least what they have said so far, but we'll have to see how it develops when the RFP, or if they decide the draft RFP drops. Now let's look into some of these factors in more detail. The technical experience, or factor 1. Here you must submit active or recent contracts showing that you did have this experience, and here they need us to provide the PWS or statement of work to verify that we did have that technical experience that we are claiming. So the way you verify it is not just by writing that you did this or did that, or have this or that experience. You have to provide the statement of work or the statement or the PWS of that specific contract. The good thing is that experience covers primes as well as the teams. In other words, the subcontractors' experience. So once you create a team, you can use their experience as well and use it here. So if you have gaps in the different areas that they're looking for, and I'm going to get to that, then you can use your subcontractors' experience. They've said that they have not finalized the mandatory requirements for this volume, but some of them are going to be these, the OCONUS work. So you can't be a company that has always worked in US and then try to go into the ARCENT and try to get this contract. So they're looking for companies who have worked in the ARCENT area before. Spot use and compliance. I think most companies who worked in outside US or CONUS, and especially in US ARCENT, are familiar with Spot and the way it works for the employees and getting people out. Managing large service contracts. That's obviously one of the requirements. They want to make sure that you can do large projects. International logistical management. That's another thing. This has a lot of logistics needs, so they want to see that your company can actually have and manage a large logistical project in a foreign country like Kuwait or the other companies, Qatar and others. Foreign labor law compliance, which obviously when you work in those countries you need to know. And then small business integration. As I said, a minimum of 15% must be in with small businesses. But here they want to see if you have the experience previously working with small businesses. So these are essentially what needs to go into the technical experience. They have not spelled out how many pages or the exact titles of what they need, but I think it gives enough information to get prepared and find out what your gaps might be so that you can find the proper partners to get those in. Okay, factor 2 is the small business participation. As I said, small business participation must be at least 15% of the total contract value. They are not going to ask for a subcontracting plan, at least so far. And then the small business participation that you claim must be 100% OCONUS. So you can't do any back office subcontract. In other words, you can't use some of the small businesses that you use for any reasons back at home in US as part of this subcontracting participation. Small business participation. So all the small business participation, that 15% must be in the AOR or at least OCONUS. So if you have some sort of a backup in Europe, that's acceptable. Better be in the AOR of USARCENT, but you can't use US-based small businesses where the work is done there. Okay, so and just wanted to emphasize again that volume 1 or factor 1 and factor 2 are pass-fail. So essentially you just want to make sure that you answer everything that they're asking for and check it off. But the important one is here, factor 3 technical, which they're going to give a score and then compare companies to each other. Here on the technical volume, there are 2 sub-factors. Sub-factor 1 is the program management. This was originally what they told us in the industry day, but they have since changed that and they've included a second sub-factor, sub-factor 2, or diary range complex execution plan, because that diary range has been added, the operation and maintenance. So now we have 2 sub-factors here. The program management part is the usual program management that you get for these types of contracts: staffing, material management. They've also added labor law compliance plans and strategies. And then they've said that they're going to spell out the full requirements in the CDRL that they're going to provide for the PMP, for the program management plan. But essentially, it's going to be a program management. They haven't spelled out how many pages we have to write to, but this is where you need to really shine. I do want to emphasize this many times because, as I said, factors 1 and 2 are pass-fail. So this is where, if you don't do well, you're going to be put aside. So this is where your capabilities in proposal writing and showing your proper management processes is essential. And then sub-factor 2, you need some inside help. In other words, you're supposed to write towards how you're going to do the operation and maintenance of the ODA range complex, including, as I've written, tower operations during training events, range berm, roads, target area maintenance, target test setup and removal, and all of that. Now, the thing is that when you're writing to that and you're writing your execution plan, you really need somebody who's worked there and knows the system. Otherwise, you're going to write something generic and the government is going to know that you haven't been there. So this is where you really need some sort of a subject matter expert who's done this job before at that location. This is our recommendation, that if you want sub-factor 2 to be effective, you really need that to be written by somebody who's been there, who's worked there, who knows their ups and downs and all the unique features of the Odairi range complex to be written in that execution plan. Okay, now factor 4, cost price. As you remember, I told you that this is not submitted with your initial proposal. The government is going to ask you if you're shortlisted to submit it. But they're going to require cost realism and price analysis in it. It's going to include 6 months, the 6-month option to extend. They're going to ask for a complete labor hour rate cost breakdown. It needs to be DCMA, DCAA reports assistance. In other words, it needs to be really compliant with how DCAA and DCMA are going to review it. Equal employment opportunity, EEO, you need to have been registered and be compliant with that. And then, as I mentioned, you need to present this 14 days, within 14 days of notification by the government. So you can't just leave everything to those 14 days. The work to be done needs a lot of effort. So this is something, the factor 4, even though you might not be submitting it, is something that you need to start on working on fairly early and prepare everything for it, just in case that the government, you're shortlisted and the government wants you to submit. Because this is, it's not possible to do that in 14 days. So that's our recommendation, that you start working on the price volume even though you're not supposed to submit it. Okay, I do want to mention a few points on partnering because I think it's very important here. It's going to create a strong team. Creating a strong team will give USARCENT confidence that you do have the ability to actually perform. This is going to be a large project. It's going to be widespread in different areas. And they want to rely on you to provide both the training itself as well as the support and maintenance and a lot of different items that they have mentioned in the statement of work. So they don't want some company to go solo. I'm sure that a team will have a much stronger impact on the evaluators. So that's what we are recommending to everyone, to actually create a team And this way, you can also strengthen your score on the experience side using your your teaming partners' strengths. And then if there are any gaps based on the requirements of the RFP, you can use the team's capabilities to fill in those gaps. And of course, small business participation is one of the requirements. So you really need to team up with some small businesses to reach that 15% subcontracting quota. And I should mention that we do help companies, both primes and subs, in this. If you're a sub, let us know, and we'll introduce you to potential primes. And if you're a prime looking for a sub, again, let us know specifically what you're looking for, and we'll try to see which companies subs have showed interest, and we can put your hands in each other's hands. It's a free system. We don't do anything, we don't ask for anything, but we can help you on that. Okay, we've put a short win strategy for this in place, and I'm going to go over it. First, I think, as everybody will usually do that, you need to do a gap analysis on the experience and the other requirements. Obviously, not all the requirements are very clear now, but I think it would be too late to wait until the RFP drops. So you need to do a gap analysis right now with the information that is available. And then based on that, you need to decide on your partnering strategy based on your gap analysis. In other words, you need to find out where are the holes and how you can actually find the partners to actually fill those gaps. As I mentioned and focused on, you really need to concentrate on factor 3 technical. And that's because, as I said, factors 1 and 2 are just pass-fail. It doesn't mean that that you should not do well on factors 1 and 2, but when you're thinking about the efforts that you need to put on this, you really need to go after factor 3, because factors 1 and 2, if you have the minimums, you get the pass. You pass on that. But factor 3 is what the government is going to evaluate on a point score, how well you're presenting yourself. So that's really where you should shine, and really where you can actually put aside your competitors and move to the short list. The other point that we've said is start early. Do not wait for the RFP to be released and then mobilize your proposal effort. We suggest working on the proposal up to some sort of a pseudo pink, and then wait for the full RFP unless the draft is issued first. In other words, don't wait and then start right now as far as finding the proper partner, as far as preparing your past experience, as far as even writing a draft management plan. Yes, we don't know exactly what they're looking for. We don't know the page count, but we should start. We should mobilize. Otherwise, it's going to be too late once the RFP drops. Because there were some rumors that there might be a draft RFP, but the way they're actually writing some of the Section L and M requirements in the recent changes on the FPO, it seems that there is a possibility that they're going to go right to full RFP. So we shouldn't risk that, and we should start as soon as possible as far as the proposal preparations are concerned. We have also mentioned that you should get outside help. First of all, bring on board a USARCENT SME. Actually, there are two types of them, and I want to discuss that. First type is the type who are the evaluator types or the contracting officer types. We always do that for our clients. In other words, we have a network of these people, and if you have it, use yours to bring in former contracting officers or former evaluators or people who've been in those offices and know what the pain points are, what the needs are, and can actually make the proposal much more focused on the requirements and the needs of USARCENT training needs. So that's one area. And I should mention that this is different from bringing in, for example, former generals who used to work in that area. That's a different story because I've talked about this a number of times in our webinars. Generals do not do evaluation of proposals. Evaluation of proposals are done by lower level commanders or people. So bringing in a general can be helpful, but it's not the whole story. You really need to have somebody who knows how the exact evaluation is going to be. That's much more important than knowing the general and overarching requirements which the former generals or former commanders might know. So I do suggest that when you're preparing the people that you want to bring in, do think and do go after former contracting officers or former program managers, people who actually did the work and actually will used to do the evaluations. Now, the second type of SME that you might need is what I mentioned, because that execution plan that you have to, sub-factor 2 that you have to provide for URC is really important. So you really need somebody who's worked there and knows that area and that camp and that firing ground inside out, and can actually write toward your execution plan. So you should really bring in somebody with prior experience there. So that's the SME. Now there's a cost SME that we are suggesting to our clients to actually bring in somebody who's worked with DCAA, DCMA systems, and who can help you write your cost narratives as well. Unless you have one, of course, yourself in the proposal team you have, which is fine then. And then finally, which is very important, get the proposal reviewed by an independent body. You're not going to have multiple chances. The government will review it once, and if there are problems with it, if there are deficiencies, they're going to put it aside. So get your proposal reviewed by an independent set of eyes, we should say, to make sure that nothing is missing. So that's essentially the win strategy that we are recommending to our clients. I guess for services, Larry, you can take over.
Yeah. By the way, what Ab just said, as far as start working on the proposal, absolutely. Something of this size, when they drop it on you, it can bring your organization to your knees. You should really have your partnerships, your strategy, your strengths all set up way ahead of time right now. And July 2020 sounds like a long way off, but it'll come up quickly. Again, the services we can provide, we provide help with your proposal. We can do capture management, which is usually something bigger and takes longer, but the actual proposal, if you're looking for us to do this either as a sub or as a prime, that's what we do. As Ab said, we have a network of subject matter experts that have worked with Army Central Command, OCONUS, and by the way, it was a question what OCONUS means. It means outside the continental United States. In terms of reviewing and auditing, and we work with big companies, we can provide the staff augmentation that would help make you, in terms of either former Army Central Command staff or proposal managers. The whole idea is a lot of companies will do this kind of like outsourcing, because you could have a big proposal team yourself and they'll work like crazy nights, weekends, and then sit on their hands while the government evaluates, which could be coming back 3 months later. So we provide that outsourcing capability to get the best staff and to make sure we do it the best possible way to give you a very good chance of winning. And again, when we go into this, I'm available. You'll see my contact information, and Ab is. And if you have a question of what we can do, if you want to quote, if you want any specifics or how we work, when we could work, what resources we provide, just shoot an email to me or call me, and we'll return it as quickly as we can. So just a couple of questions that came up. Let's just see. Okay, here's my contact information. I already went over what OCONUS is. There's a question about, let's see, they're talking to me, small business that are domiciled in the U.S. but are willing to get training overseas. Are they ineligible or do not qualify? Ab, can you answer that one?
Yeah, it doesn't matter where you're based. The issue is that 15% of the job that is submitted to small businesses must be done by a small business that is doing the job or doing the work outside U.S. OCONUS. So obviously, all U.S. companies have their bases in U.S. That's no problem. The job itself, what you're doing as a small business, must be done in OCONUS outside U.S. So if you have some sort of a service that is in Germany and you're supporting this project, that's fine. Or if you're actually sending your people or providing some support to people at USARCENT in Kuwait or whatever, that's fine too. But you can't do the job, for example, prepare training material in US. That's not acceptable.
And by the way, there are plenty of companies, if you're looking for subs or primes, that have extensive experience in places like Kuwait and whatnot else. So, and I've been there for years. So there's plenty of companies that you could team with. There's a question here, we're a small business based in the U.S. with international office in Egypt. Can we participate as a sub? I think the answer would be yes. Wouldn't it be, Ab? Or
yes, no problem.
Yeah,
I mean, as I said,
as long as you're based
as
here.
long as as long as you're doing the job outside US, you're good to go.
Okay, I think this is a form of the same question. Can the U.S.-based sub have offices in the AOR and still qualify? Yes. Are there other questions that you have, Ab, or that have come in? Let's see. How much do you charge to write the proposal? Again, that depends on what you need. Send me the information or that you're planning on doing, maybe a little scope, and we'll come back with alternatives for you, depending on what we have to provide, what your expectations are, timeframes, etc. It's not a specific charge that we have a price sheet, one from here and one from there. So it's customized because, again, every proposal is different.
Yeah, I did receive an email from a company. They're asking, when do you think the RFP is going to drop? We estimate either October or November if they're on track, because if they want to actually start, as they have said, 1st of July, they really need to do it by the end of maximum November. So we are thinking that October or November is when the RFP is going to drop.
Yeah, and I think that's probably a realistic time frame because these are big procurements and they know they really want something in place by 1 July 2020. So they better get a move on themselves. So.
Yeah, I also have another question with regards to capture. Can you do capture for this project? Yes. I should mention that I did not mention much capture here because this is a single award procurement. So we didn't want to give companies, unjust advantages. But yes, we do capture, and we have done a review of all the competitors, or at least previous competitors on this requirement, and we do know their strength and capabilities. Yes, we can do capture, especially some companies might be interested in Black Hat, which is what the competitors are going to do and how they're going to write the proposal. So yes, short answer is yes, we can do capture for any companies that are in need of it.
Okay, another question a few questions came in of how they can be for teaming, how they can be introduced to primes, and they have capabilities. What I say to that is send me a little blurb or some information on your company. And again, as Ab said, we don't do it formally, a big process, but a lot of times it's a network, and if somebody needs something, we can recommend or at least make the introduction, and vice versa. If you're either a big company needing a small one or vice versa, so send it to us. Here's a question: do you recommend first-time contracting companies to sub? Not quite sure what that question means. Do we recommend first-time contracting, like they've never had a contract with Central Command? Definitely. I mean, priming as opposed to priming, definitely. But again, as Ab went through it, they're really looking for good past performance in the areas where they operate, and the evaluation criteria is going to look at that. So I'm not saying you can't bid, but you know, when you talk to us, we'll be realistically on what your chances are. So
yeah,
that isn't to say
and also if they want to sub, to be realistic, the sub is going to get some sort of a value out. The prime is going to look for some sort of a value coming from the sub. So, for example, assume that a sub has never worked at the USARCENT before, has no experience in training military forces and things like that. So what value is that sub going to bring to the prime? So the prime is probably not going to, select them. Yeah. So unless you can actually fill some sort of a gap for the prime, they're probably not going to select you.
The question is, are we going to write a proposal for multiple companies? That would be a conflict.
No, we are not. No. We will write only for one company. We might do reviews for multiple companies. That we haven't decided yet. But once we agree with one company to write a proposal for them, we're not going to do it for any other company.
Yeah, that would absolutely. And by the way, we're totally willing to sign a non-disclosure agreement in the beginning, and we're a very ethical company. So, that's how we got the win rate, and that's how our success is. So, other questions? If not, I am going to thank you very much for the time you spent with us. Again, the presentations will be sent to you, downloaded. I welcome all sorts of inquiries. If you're bidding on this one, fantastic. If there's another one you have in mind that you're looking at, that you may want our capabilities for that one, we welcome that also. So we look forward to hearing from you, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone.